Welcome back to the North American SCC Qualifiers. My name is Dolson, and I'm very excited to bring you our second matchup of the day as well. Hopefully you guys weren't tired of me because you get me again for this set. And this one, the FUNHAVERS up against the neighborhood. But here's what's most important. I can't do this alone. And the only person who would actually make noise, talk over me, things like that, is the person who's sitting with me. Miff, we have an actual desk job today.
You made the joke during the break, Chad. I'm going to pull back the curtain for a second. And nobody laughed. There's plenty of people in here that could have given him like a little bit of feedback
Just
that
Mike.
It was a good joke.
It's only Mike.
Yeah, and me. And neither one of us laughed. And Mike laughs at everything.
That is true. Yeah, fair enough. All right, it was a bad joke. But Miff's with me on the desk for this one. Miff, as we look at the schedule here from what we've had today, I said it with Trelly after Samsara 2-0'd later Slater. I think FUNHAVERS versus the neighborhood could be at least all right. So even if this is a 2-0, I'm gonna make this a no-lose situation for me.
Okay, please.
I think even if this ends up being a 2-0, FUNHAVERS versus the neighborhood has maybe the most potential from the matches we've seen so far to be a 3-game set.
Yeah, I think so, man. These are both squads that played during the SPL play-ins. Both had pretty magnificent runs, I'd say. FUNHAVERS, I believe, only one set away from qualifying in the SPL. The neighborhood were 2 sets away. But there's some interesting roster swaps here, right? I believe In My Zen was originally playing with El Leon's team.
Yeah.
And they were playing with Teepers. No, they were playing with Tuba originally, but now it's In My Zen on FUNHAVERS.
Right. So In My Zen playing ADC for FUNHAVERS. And remember, Teepers was supposed to play with the neighborhood during that SPL qualifier tournament.
And that was Jumpa.
And then like Dame and Jumpa had done some like jungle to mid swaps. So Teepers is now here. But Gaijay is also playing ADC for the neighborhood. We'll talk about that in a minute. This FUNHAVERS team, Uzi, Magic Feet, Joshi, Oceans, and In My Zen. Miff, I think if you're looking at teams that had the potential to qualify to the North American SEC, and there are a lot of stacked teams here, this is a team, especially during that SPL qualifier tournament, that showed us that, you know, on a good day of Smite, these guys play a really good brand of Smite and have a good shot at qualifying here this week.
Yeah, this is a squad that is very enigmatic, I would say, in how they decide to approach the games. I actually... Oceans has been local for a while. I've had a lot of conversations with him about some of the decision-making he has for his squad, acting as primary shot caller. Like, some of these wild decisions for, like, going towards a fire giant when you're, like, 100 gold down because you just feel like coin-tossing the moment. And the best description I've got of the FUNHAVERS thought process is, legitimately, is it a fun call? If yes, they're probably doing it. And 2, do they think it's going to be cool? These guys live and die by the rule of cool. They're like Coliseum gladiators. They live for the cheers, man.
What's that meme? Nobody is born cool, except of course. That's just this roster inside the car mirror. Is Magic Feet? Magic Feet's the one who like
no Twitter Magic Feet.
Yeah, like came out of nowhere during that tournament and showed up and actually played really good Smite.
He's got like 180 Smite friend requests now because people just need to get into his DM somewhere.
Right,
yeah,
right.
He's nuts.
Yeah, you can't find him on social media anywhere. You got to DM him on Smite. FUNHAVERS, good-looking roster, literally with Magic Feet out of the jungle. What?
I wasn't expecting it.
It's a good-looking dude.
Yes.
You gotta DM him on Smite. You can't find him on.
Stop objectifying Magic Feet, man. Leave him alone. We gotta talk about the quality of this man's character.
I just said he was really good at Smite.
After saying he was handsome, it was an afterthought when you
He's
said
handsome and good at Smite. There's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't anything wrong with it. You would know.
A team filled with handsome Smite players is the neighborhood. No, I'm bad at Smite.
But you think you're handsome?
You just said I was. Delny, Dame, Teepers, Vonson, and Gaijay. Bunch of handsome Smite gamers over here for the neighborhood. Different look from what we saw during the tournament a couple weeks ago. Dame out of the jungle though is so one of the remaining. There's a couple spots that remain the same. Vonson support, Dame jungle, Delny out of the solo lane. I think Dame was a pretty standout member of this team.
He was. He was very strong out of the jungle. Remember back to the SPL play-ins, he was actually playing mid originally, allowing Jumpa to take that jungle role. They didn't see too much success there. Immediately get dropped down to the losers bracket, and then they made that roster swap to have Dame, the core jungler, back in that role. And, well, they started to look a lot better. He's a great facilitator for his squad, likes to get involved very early on, and I think maybe that is the correlation between this whole team is their willingness to kind of forego the laning phase and start grouping up. They are very much so of that OG North American SCC playstyle of, hey, it doesn't matter if we lose lanes if we just group up and win team fights, and generally it's worked out for them.
Yeah, FUNHAVERS have gotten the better of this matchup in the past. I think GuyJ throws a bit of a wrench in the mix, though, here, Myth, because
he takes those.
GuyJ, you know, I think surprising standout ADC. I think
Yes.
GuyJ deserves his shot here. This neighborhood team, hopefully, able to make good use of GuyJ over there in ADC. Always fun, you know. Of course, having the word FUNHAVERS in this matchup. Plenty of opportunity for plays on words. But these two teams actually are a lot of fun to watch when they match up against one another. And picks and bans for game one. We'll start it all off for us. We have seen plenty of RDO bans. We've seen plenty of Amaterasu bans. Kabrakan's been banned out a whole lot. And so if you start to see those, that's just good old normal straight up meta bans. But with FUNHAVERS in the first pick slot, Neighborhood over there in second pick, maybe you start to see something a little bit more centered around an individual player, if it's not one of those that I mentioned, and Zeus is going to get banned away.
Yeah, Zeus has been that kind of aggressive styling that we saw from the Neighborhood. It was generally Jumpa playing the Zeus, and he played it like 6 games in a row, and Jumpa's not playing for the Neighborhood right now, so maybe some dated bans from the FUNHAVERS. I wouldn't be too surprised. Oh, they beat me to it. I was going to say ESET bans, because it's all Oceans plays on the other side through support, and, well, the Neighborhood accurately identified that.
All right, so what's he going to play? If that's all he plays, Myth, he has nothing else.
I don't know, probably like... God, he likes going for just the weirdest stuff. Like Gilgamesh support is something he really likes going
But
towards.
is it fun?
Yeah, I would say so.
Is it fun and look cool? Yeah, then we're doing it. That's what the FUNHAVERS are drafting around. It won't be ESET. It'll be something else, maybe unique for Oceans in game number 1. Gilgamesh, not going to be support because the FUNHAVERS themselves have banned that one out, as well as a Bologna. And so if all the solo laners that we've seen get banned, Bologna has seen a little bit, but I feel like Amaterasu has, and Ardio have been the more popular first couple of bans. But Myth, Bologna ends up eating the ban here, but that leaves Ardio open.
And Ardio is firmly in Uzi's god pool. It's one of the 3 or 4 picks that he will go towards ad nauseum. It's the Ardios, the Cthulhus, the Odins, and then occasionally he'll pick up something like a Hades if he's feeling really saucy on day of. Has great damage output, holds her own in every single lane. I don't think there's any matchups that you're feeling really bad about. One weakness of Ardio being that you don't have any CC immunity in the kit means that Ragnarok, Grasp with Death could slow down her roll a little bit, but by that same note, Ardio just has a phenomenal matchup into Fenrir. You can stop the Brutalize very easily. The cripple field as well makes it very hard for Fenrir to maneuver around these team fights. Could be that we just see Uzi running down this dog.
I will say, alright, so Horus not fun as far as like strange support meta picks, but definitely is a fun support. And so I think Oceans still checks the fun box here for game number 1. Horus plus Medusa here, Mifflin, I think that's a lane that can absolutely exert some pressure. And I wondered if this is why we saw the Bologna ban. Like if Bologna, or if Ardio and Amaterasu are both still available, you're guaranteeing yourself to get one of the 2. And so let's just take away Bologna, I guess, the way Neighborhood think about it. So Persephone, Fenrir, Ama, you're just working down the tier list here if you're the Neighborhood.
You are, and these are all picks that have recently come to a resurgence. Amaterasu and Persephone a little bit more recently in Season 9 have really started to hit their stride. Fenrir seems to be a little bit meta-resistant, nerf-resistant, just because of how strong his CC core and aggression is. But looking at the draft so far from Neighborhood, it's a pretty one-note engage. You've really only got the Grasp with Death and Dazzling Offensive to burn beads. Grasp with Death a little bit more consistent, whereas Dazzling Offensive, you're hitting 1, maybe 2 targets consistently. So I think that despite having good CC so far, I'd like to see a little bit more from the Neighborhood just to facilitate the Ragnarok from Fenrir.
That's a new one.
And that'll do it too.
Cernanos. Okay. So Cernanos gets picked in here. 1 pick. 1 individual pick so far this week. Hasn't won yet, though. 0 wins. What's the value here, Myth, in the Cern pick?
Cern's just good, man.
Is he?
You've got great passives from the first ability. He's got some buffs now to the Bramble Blast. Can't just jump out of those anymore. A phenomenal teamfight ultimate that is going to really burn away those beads pretty consistently, especially against some of these picks that we're already seeing from the FUNHAVERS. Medusa probably struggles to avoid the pig ultimate. Merlin as well, with Flicker being so short range. The second he uses that, Cern should be able to close that gap relatively easily. But even more than that, it's the ability to realize where Horus is landing You've got that split moment where he puts the targeter on the ground. You know where he's going to land. You know he's likely bringing his homies with him. Drops CERN ultimate right on top of it. You're disrupting an entire engage.
You know what? This is a total side note.
Okay.
Do you
Should
know
we
what's
sidebar?
Sidebar, yeah.
Okay, take the headset off.
Yeah, chat. You just hold on. For a second. Do you know what CERN's like god name is? Like like Ares, god of war, things like that.
God of the forest.
No, he's the horned god.
Okay, well he's got horns, yeah.
That's it. He's the god of horns, I guess. All right, game 1. We'll see if Centernos in his second game of the week can find first win of the week. This is the third rendition of FUNHAVERS versus the Neighborhood, but the first rendition of it with these exact rosters. Different look at both teams. In My Zen and Gaijay, both new ADCs for both of these squads, and it's going to be Oceans on the Horus, In My Zen on Medusa, up against Vonson on the Fenrir, and Gaijay on the Cernanos. Could be some fun, Mifflin, over in the duo lane.
Yeah, I'm giving slight edge over to the FUNHAVERS in terms of aggression, just because they've got the more aggressive of the two hunters. Generally, you'd probably slightly value Fenrir a little bit more so over Horus throughout the early laning phase, but the relative value of Medusa, Viper Shot, Acid Spray, Lacerate now dealing damage to the wave, her clear incredibly strong, and her ability to just straight up murder gods incredibly strong as well. And I would argue Medusa probably a little bit less reliant on the ultimate than Cernunos is on the other side. So expect the Neighborhood to try and leverage some early aggression through Fenrir. If that first 2 or so waves doesn't really go their way, they're probably going to slow it down and wait for those ultimates to become available.
Magic Feet on the Camazotz up against Dame on the Serket. Serket has seen, high priority here so far this week. Camazotz not so much. Do you think Cam is still in a spot, Miff, where there's some good value here out of this pick? And I'll hold that thought to jump in onto Vonson. We've seen a lot of this, though. Level 1 over in duo lane. But Magic Feet on the Camazotz. And he'll do the start that we've seen a lot of junglers do, just team up with their solo laner and push in that first wave.
Look, Camazotz, as a jungler, is a god that just deals damage. That's kind of the core of what he's looking to do.
Just has fun.
Rooted out. Yeah, just has fun. But I would argue with the advent of Kleena, it kind of invalidates Camazotz a little bit. She's also a god of just deals damage, but she does more and also does more around these objectives. So what is it that differentiates Camazotz from Kleena in that regard? It's the safety of this pick. You've got a ton of lifesteal. If you decide to go down that Jotun's Vigor tree, you're going to be able to sustain through these fights incredibly well. And it's the ability to remove yourself from the playfield instantly with Bat Out of Hell.
Oceans gets crippled and rooted into place, has to use the beads. So an early win for the Neighborhood over in the duo lane. Magic Feet starts with Mannequin Scepter here, Miff. And so, oftentimes we'll see Camazotz all in on the ability tree. But maybe sensing there's an opportunity to get aggressive early with the Mannequin start.
Yeah, it's also going to be able to upgrade into that Mannequin's Hidden Blade, which is going to help out a fair deal with some of that burst damage. And I would argue he leverages the early auto attacks very well. Vampiric Bats applies a slow. You've already got speed buffs. So you're faster than just about everybody else on the map, meaning that you're probably going to land your auto attacks pretty consistently as well.
Oceans and In My Zen, though, put out a little bit of pressure early on in the lane. Did not grab that kill. It was Frenzy used by Vonson. And Beads from Oceans ended up getting burnt down just a moment ago. Blue buff's about to respawn here. Magic Feet makes the first invade of the game on the blue. Delny is just going to have to watch this one go down as Uzi confirms the blue buff. So blue buff on Ardio helps sustain up in this lane. You got Vampiric Shroud there as well. Miff, I don't think it's going to be super often where we see this Ardio with a low health bar.
No. Uzi, I would argue, has essentially won the lane now. Delny's kind of just on the back burner waiting for the ability to rotate out, just falling behind. Early on against an Ardio, you lose a lot of your potential to kill her as well. In mid, Joshi, forced to use the beads, eats the Grasp of Death, but walks away.
That timing.
We saw Dame group up on the left side of the map. It looked like he wanted to go for a duo gank. That's what sacrifices the blue buff. I think going for that non-committal start, going back to base, really did cost him because he gains nothing and loses blue for his solo.
Miff, are you the type of CERN player that actually is able to rotate through the different stances on your autos?
No, not at all.
No, I don't think I'm very good at that either. In My Zen, brutalized by Vonson. But the Medusa will survive. A couple of pots in that back pocket. So I think the duo lane's just going to be doing some fighting. But outside of jungle pressure, Maybe not much in the kill department here just yet. There is some jungle pressure. Magic Feet level 5 over towards the left side of the map. One ward for the neighborhood, but it's right where the duo lane is standing right now. Magic Feet won't convert and will not end up ganking over on the left side of the map just yet. Teeper's on this Persephone. You know, Persephone I think has become an interesting pick to watch. Haven't seen much success, at least in the win department, from Persephone, but Myth feels like a pick that's always able to deal big damage numbers, kind of regardless of what that win rate might stand at.
Yeah, that damage output's so high. Vonson in some trouble.
Oh,
Here's the chase.
This is fun. This is a fun play. Oceans dashes in, but it's big from GuyJ on the ultimate. But now the CERN is on the wrong side of this fight. Good knock-up from Oceans. Immediately rooted in place. Vonson is so low. But In My Zen and Oceans will not confirm the kill. Are going to have to send GuyJ and Vonson back to base, though. Magic Feet over, and look at the timing. Purple buff is up. So a good play for the FUNHAVERS. You don't get a kill. You're able to strip away some of that farm, but Dame is able to do the same, takes away that red buff.
He does. Maybe Magic Feet goes for the exact same play in his own right, going to move over towards the enemy red. Dame, though, this is some trouble. GuyJ should have communicated that, which is why we see him kind of think twice about stepping up here. Vonson with no ultimate, not going to put a whole lot of threat onto Magic Feet, who has still got his own, should be able to escape relatively easily. So if there is a commitment from the neighborhood, it's just trying to strip away that cooldown. Again, Camazotz is just crazy safe at this point in the game.
Yep, has blank. Magic Feet realizes beads aren't going to do him much as long as he's got his ultimate. Swinging and ready to go. Sovereignty picked up first for Vonson here in a lane with Oceans and In My Zen, and Magic Feet potentially rotating over and dealing a lot of pressure. That AoE physical prot for your team, I think we'll find some good value here for the neighborhood.
It will, and it really does speed up your pace. You're not picking up Gauntlet of Thebes. You don't have to wait for that stacking to come through. You've immediately got the value of some defense from your item. Your teammates are immediately kind of benefiting from that aura defense as well, which means that you can start leveraging aggression elsewhere on the map, or even do exactly this, utilize some of that additional survivability that Fenrir's got in his own right, that CC immunity, the ultimate, the double leaps, the additional movement speed to work your way forward and steal at least one flower.
Sovereignty picked up by Oceans. Maybe that was
exactly everything I just said, but the same.
Yeah, copy and pasted over to Oceans as Vonson's in his ult. First gobble of the game, and it's on to Magic Feet. Bat out of hell's around the corner, but not needed. Joshi grabs first blood, and it's Dame who's left alone, and the FUNHAVERS strike first. Dame on the Circuit, first to go down.
That's pretty fortuitous for the FUNHAVERS to get first blood on a Joshi as well. He was already about a half level down on Teepers, who had controlled the mid camps very well up until this point. That first blood bounty should still put Joshi slightly ahead and close up that experience gap.
Magic Feet over towards left. Purple buff's about to respawn. GuyJ half HP. Has his ult, but doesn't have beads. And so the likelihood of being able to defend this purple buff much more limited. So purple buff invaded. And that's kind of the fallout from that first blood, is then the ability to rotate over and find pressure on left. I do want to talk about this Merlin, though, Miff. We haven't seen Merlin picked up all that often. Do you think with the way that the builds look right now, flat pen being the name of the game, that style of build, that style of play, it synergized well with Merlin?
Yeah, I would argue so. I mean, you've got just so much damage output. You've got phenomenal poke from a range. I think the double flat pen build really is just great for these mid laners that can easily apply poke, and Ice Stance Merlin does exactly that. You can drop some hail on them, hit them with the enhanced auto attack, and you've already gotten a ton of value. Switch Stance in the Arcane and do the exact same thing all over again. So maybe not the exact style of scaling that you want from Merlin. I would argue Merlin's main power point is later in the game, a little later slanted than things like the Persephone, the Thos, the Agnes of the world, but he's still going to be able to pick up a Rod and Tahuti eventually, so you're feeling just fine.
I'm feeling just fine. Could be Divine Ruin for Joshi after his first item, or his first flat pen item with the Spear of Death. So as you pointed out, Teepers went ahead into the Divine Ruin to start off the flat pen, and then something a little bit different for Teepers out of that flat pen tree after that. Blue buff's not here, but Delny is, and so are 4 members of the FUNHAVERS. You're committing a lot. You got to get the kill, and get the kill they do. There could be more. Dame
surely not.
It's going to get dropped on, but Dame will leap away. So the FUNHAVERS find a pick onto Delny. The Amaterasu put behind, and the FUNHAVERS off to a 2-0 start.
They love doing this early roaming death ball, man. 4-man group on the right-hand side as Teepers tosses out the ultimate, seeing if maybe he can connect with somebody. Considering Oceans did not have the ultimate available, could have potentially opened up the door for a rotation in for the neighborhood, but still has beads, this horse. Very safe at this point, so high commitment from Teepers for not a whole lot of payoff, or none whatsoever, because he doesn't connect at all.
The FUNHAVERS are able to pull themselves, Myth, through all of this. About 2,000 gold in the lead, 4,000 experience in the lead.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And you know, the couple of kills, great, but it's all of the fallout from that. No, this is brutal for Delny.
Come on, man.
I know. I get back from base. I get my blue buff. No.
Gold Fury, maybe.
Wait. Did he drop the blue somehow? Delny somehow got the blue on his way out, at least, I guess. Gold Fury gonna get melted through by the neighborhood unless In My Zen makes a play. Oh. FUNHAVERS steal it away, get a kill. Bad to worse, nothing going right. Guy J's gonna die as well. In My Zen gets a double. Good night, neighborhood. 9 minutes in, and your plays have just not worked out. That was writing was on the wall when In My Zen made that rotation.
He did, just walks over real casual-like, and that is the risk for the neighborhood. It's brutal. It's the, you know, the standard play. Oh, there's 3 people in right. Let's see if we can make a play on left. Gold Fury is pretty easy, but you don't have a confirmation mage. Grasp of Death, not really good at confirming objectives. Petrify on the other end is pretty good at confirming objectives clearly, as the FUNHAVERS were able to take it and the fight afterward. And, well, the neighborhood, they've just got to wait, man. I mean, they've just got to get to the late game from here.
Yeah, but Oceans, I think, on this style of pick, and Uzi on this style of pick, as far as initiators, are not going to let the neighborhood just to sit back and wait. In My Zen had a quiet laning phase up to this point, Myth. We'll take a look now.
So casual.
So casual. And then the stun onto Vonson, the dash into Guy J. It all just makes sense. And that is just brutal. You know, the neighborhood feeling like, all right, Delny, like, you're going to drop over there on right, but
we're making plays.
Right, we're making plays. We're doing something. And then that happens. Yeah, the 2,000 or 3,000 gold that the neighborhood were ahead is no longer. FUNHAVERS pull about 5,000 in the lead here. And 8,000 in the experience department at 10 minutes. Feels like this map is just under control of the FUNHAVERS, and anywhere they go, kill should follow.
Yeah, Ocean's playing with the level of confidence to legitimately just use his ultimate at every single opportunity should tell you about the pacing of this game. We do get to see a micro play from In My Zen in that last little grouping that I didn't know was possible. He turns Vonson into a statue and then uses the statue to acid spray 2 targets behind him. I didn't know that's how that worked. Legitimately, I've not seen that interaction before.
I don't have the presence of mind to even do that.
Dude, like,
you know what I mean?
I'm like that guy's dead. I'm not gonna keep shooting at him.
Right, that's my mindset. I'm moving along to the back line, but In My Zen, the new ADC for this team, makes a play happen. And, you know, stealing the Gold Fury alone would have been enough, much less finding a double kill on the other side of it. That's pulled In My Zen 2 levels ahead. Completed Crusher, completed Aussie. 2 levels in mid as well. 3 levels out of the jungle, and then 2 in both solo and support. So XP, not lopsided.
Ooh.
Sometimes, you know, you'll see like this massive XP lead, things like that, and it'll be centered around one lane or one role, but it's really across the map right now. The neighborhood are just behind in every single facet of this game. So there's a lot of climbing to be done here by this squad, but, you know, with the way the FUNHAVERS are playing, I'm not sure they're going to give the neighborhood the ability to do that. I mean, like a Horus, right? Like I don't want to be behind against a Horus. He just drop ships people behind me.
Well, there's something to be said here, right? The neighborhood have got great scaling with their composition. Surcat can go for this still full tank style and deal a ton of damage because the scaling changes haven't come through for him just yet. Guy J has got a phenomenal stim for hunters. Can either apply a slow, get additional lifesteal, or even get a little bit more damage output. So can go for some cheeky objective plays around him, especially with the Aussie already finished up. Vonson may be behind and does have to go defense because he's support, but Fenrir is in a unique position that he can at least gain power by maxing out that Seething Howl. And power from behind is more valuable than defense from behind, so you can return some kills. And then you got to talk about bounties. Like, nobody in the neighborhood is worth a whole lot, so they can start trading their lives for high-value kills on the other side. It's all about silver linings, man.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm worried that, I mean, you bring up Vonson.
I do.
But I'm worried that he's going to pop Ragnarok, walk in, and just die. Like, I don't, you know what I mean?
We'll see.
What does that tell you?
I learned a lot from that trade, actually. I know exactly where Bonson's head's at. My man's still playing proactive. His head's in the game. He hasn't shut himself down whatsoever.
Guy J petrified and taken low. The Wild Hunt not going to connect for much. Guy J actually returning a good bit of damage here. His tower dive not going to get completed unless Oceans wants to just go ahead and do this. The shielding tanks a tower shot or two. Magic Feet rotates on through. It's a Ragnarok up and down. Magic Feet bat out of hell. One swoop. No good on the 2 or 3. So Guy J plays a tower dive well. Oh, huge damage from Joshi on the rotation over from the mid lane. We are fighting over on left over a tier 1 tower, and somehow no one dies.
Yeah, 5-man grouping from both squads here, but major tools lost. Teepers and Vonson, no ultimate available. Guy J is down as well, and the FUNHAVERS are benefiting from the sustain of Horus. Why stop at the tier 1? Tier 2 is right ahead of you.
Tier 2 is here. Delny stunned, uses the beads though to keep himself on the map. Tier 2 tower melting down, half HP remaining. FUNHAVERS be able to grab this one. Nice infusion of gold into the back pockets, and then hey, there's an Oni Fury awaiting just around the corner if the FUNHAVERS want to turn their eyes towards that objective.
The mid tower too?
And the mid tier 1 tower, Magic Feet will rotate on over to it. A big old spike of gold finds its way in, Miff, and unfortunately,
I had the Fury.
about an 8,000 gold lead for the FUNHAVERS. Yeah, nice spike up. What was 4 or so thousand, not 3 minutes ago, has become 10,000 for the neighborhood.
Well, silver linings where they lie, Dave.
And they don't lie, Miff.
Don't you? Well, I might be lying, but they do lie. Fire Giant still
I casted with Trellies.
Please, okay.
Fresh eyes.
How was that, by the way?
His doe-like optimism.
Like a female deer? A doe?
Yeah,
a deer?
like
a female deer?
Ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself.
I don't even know the rest of it, man. You're
Fa, a long, long way to run.
A fa is what?
Fa, a long, long way to run.
Oh, like far.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And so fa, a long, long way to run.
Because it's like far,
yeah.
But no R. Understood, dude. I feel like we're reaching with that line. Who wrote that? Beethoven? Dude, that guy's awful, dude.
Do you know what movie that's from?
I don't know, like Mary Poppins?
Jesus. Sound of Music. No.
Oh, cool.
Nan Olsen would be that's her favorite movie. She'd be very disappointed in you right now. Joshi, gobbled up by Vonson. Doesn't die. Grasp of Death.
He can't hit him.
Not grasping. Dame jumps under the tier 1 tower. Does get the kill, but at what cost? His own life is the answer. Magic Feet is second to the game, and Oceans has been doing a whole lot of this. The horse is going to dropship right on top of Teepers. And the Frenzy gets used defensively by the neighborhood, but defensive is not enough. Another kill rolling out for the FUNHAVERS, and Vonson's going to get Phoenix Dove at 16 minutes. Needless to say, FUNHAVERS are having some fun.
Ozzy in some trouble in the back line, but
Is
maybe
he?
It's Guy J who's actually under duress here.
He's
gone back to the tier 2 tower.
away.
Yeah, man, that drop of Golden Sun is so Ray, dude. Goodness gracious.
He's got to run so far.
You're liking that too much, man. Tier 2 tower should fall down pretty easily. The FUNHAVERS, they can't do any wrong. They really can't.
Correct. And if when a game is going this wrong for one of two teams, we have to...
Which team is it?
The neighborhood might be having a rough game. We've got to sprinkle in some
Sound of Music?
some Sound of Music, a little freestyling, you know what I mean?
You want me to rap?
No, I mean you and I just going off the cuff a little bit.
Understood.
It keeps things fresh, right? Because otherwise the FUNHAVERS are just going to take the objective.
Yeah, they can't be the only ones having fun. We're going to have some fun on the cast.
We're going to have some fun too. And we might be saving the neighborhood by pulling back just a little bit. Fire Giant's up, Miff. It's 18 minutes in. In my Zen with Crusher, Aussie, Wind Demon completed. Now goes back and buys 2 out of 3 tiers, or tiers 2 and 3 of his Silver Branch. I think this Fire Giant could be a great option for this FUNHAVERS team.
Yep, Zen's also itemized towards crit with the Wind Demon, whereas Guy J is just going for Tank Shred, which probably rightfully so, because you've got so many just targets on the other side that are so survivable because of just the level gaps. Tank Shred really works out because you build up defense just from levels, so Guy J right in that, but kind of loses the ability to go for these wild objectives, whereas the FUNHAVERS, no objective can be considered wild for them. They can do whatever it is. that they want on the map. I like this response, though, from the neighborhood. They know that it is very likely that the FUNHAVERS are hovering on the right-hand side, maybe looking for a pick, maybe looking for the objective. So where's the safe spot on the map? As far away as humanly possible. Left side of the map.
In our fountain.
Yeah, I mean, not even. The Phoenix was getting dove like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, that's true. Delny could
he
make
could do it.
a steal.
Oh, he's got this.
Nope.
It was close.
I mean, like, physically close, yes.
Yeah, proximity-wise.
Proximity-wise, right, not so much damage-wise. Neighborhood gonna have to watch all 5 members of the FUNHAVERS walk down the right side of the map with Fire Giant while also being 8,000 gold behind. And behind as far as XP goes in every single roll.
Did you say 8,000? It's like 13,000.
13,000, oh my god! I can't do math!
Yeah, well, that'll happen. We don't have to. Luckily, Doug's here, and it is 13K.
Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, look, my brain's melted with Sound of Music. I can't believe you dragged me into that. It's unbelievable. FUNHAVERS as 5 with the Fire Giant buff on the right side of the map. The neighborhood, one final chance. Vani picks up Uzzy. Immediately puts him back down, though. Uzzy's lost half of his HP. It's a good start to this fight. Dame is taunted back in the RDO. And could be,
that should be
a
it.
nice pick here for the neighborhood, and it is. Right side Phoenix falls, but Uzzy does as well. And you're without your solo laner, an important facet of your team for the next 45 or so seconds.
But he does have teleport available, so 45 seconds is all they have to wait. No travel time for Uzzy to get to the opposite side of the map, and we're still playing with, for the FUNHAVERS, a couple of minutes with this Fire Giant. But
that
instead,
statue's still there.
Yeah, that statue's still there. That means that's an acid spray target for my-Zen in the future to spread some of that damage.
Magic Feet dodges everything and then blinks out as well. This is where you have to be careful, though, if you're the neighborhood. You know, despite having that one-man advantage, you are still so far behind in this game. If you overextend, you're setting up for something like this, which is a disgusting Petrify from my-Zen. And now Joshi on his own is walking down 3 members of the neighborhood.
On his own?
Well, now he's not on his own, but he was 1v3 for a second there. And in the blink of an eye, the neighborhood have lost 4 members of their team. And I think the neighborhood have just lost the game. The FUNHAVERS steamroll the neighborhood in 20 minutes.
So we learned something pretty important in the last minute or so of this game.
Do, re, mi, fa, oh.
Is a hindrance. When that man was alive, it's only a Phoenix. When he's dead, they take out Titans. In my-Zen going to make sure that it is a deicide to close out this game, and I don't think it was ever once in question.
I'm trying to think of a moment where it was.
Like, first wave, maybe?
I don't think that's giving much respect to the neighborhood. I think they had their opportunities. They were down a couple of kills. I think there was turnaround potential.
You load into every game with some opportunity, man. It gets stripped away by the opposition quickly in this one, though.
Fair enough. That's a more amicable way of putting it, Miff. I think the neighborhood hang in there, but the FUNHAVERS have just too much fun. Once Oceans was able to rotate and set up those plays however he wanted to on the Horus, this one was over. FUNHAVERS in 20 minutes. They'll take game number 1. Time for the neighborhood to bounce back in game number 2 coming up next.
Oye, siempre ha sido el gran amor, Chacha. Cien fuego, adiós, me voy para La Habana. Cien fuego, adiós, porque me da la gana. Es la verdad, oye. Cien fuego, adiós, me voy para La Habana. Adiós, goodbye. Cien fuego, adiós, porque me da la gana. Bueno, mira, escucha. Tenemos una historia tú y yo. Me conoces desde que era niño. Y siempre ha sido el gran amor. Y no sabía nada más fino. Pero ahora tengo que cambiar mi vida. Y por eso yo te tengo que dejar. Y en serio no he buscado otra salida, porque yo quiero ir a La Habana a cantar. Eso yo quiero, me voy, oye. Cien fuego, adiós, me voy para La Habana. Cien fuego, adiós, porque me siempre te voy a extrañar. Claro que sí, porque por muchos años era mi vida real. Oye, y cuando regreso yo te voy a dar, te lo juro, un regalito bien bonito de la capital. Pero ahora tengo que cambiar mi vida y por eso yo te tengo que dejar. Y en serio no he buscado otra salida, porque yo quiero ir a La Habana a cantar. Si es la verdad, por eso escucha ahora. Si juego, adiós, me voy para La Habana. Ay, me voy para La Habana. Si juego, adiós, porque me da la gana. Goodbye, goodbye, my friend, si juego, adiós, me voy para La Habana. Adiós, 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 si juego, adiós, porque me da la gana. Ay, me voy para la capital. Tony. De nuevo, Tony, Tony. Ja. Cienfuegos, hasta luego. Ay, hasta luego, Cienfuegos. Cienfuegos, hasta luego.
We learned a lot in game number 1, and that's the FUNHAVERS went ahead.
They have fun.
They have a lot of fun. And they don't often lose those games. This game, no exception. They absolutely take this one completely out of control in just over 20 minutes. What else did we learn? We learned some Sound of Music in game number 1.
By Beethoven.
By Beethoven. It is Julie Andrews, Mifflin.
Wow. You just knew that off the top.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
pretty cool.
my mom has made us
Nana
watch.
Olsen.
No, Nana was my grandmother.
Oh,
Nan,
Olsen.
N-A-N is, well, her full name's Nana.
Does every
N-A-N-O-N.
generation like get to add like a
Nana
letter?
was like my grandma's like grandma name. Like
Okay.
you, like instead of Granny or whatever.
You really
it's
called her
Nana?
Nana?
Yeah, Nana.
Mine was Mima.
Really?
Or here's a Lao lesson for you guys. I call my grandmother on my Asian side Ma Tao. And Tao was what she wanted, but I had to add Ma because I felt bad once I learned what Tao meant, which is just old. For the first 15 years of my life, I called my grandma old.
Wait, but you said she wanted that.
Yes, she told me to call her that. I said, no, I'm going to call you Ma Tao from now on.
What does the mad mean?
Mom. So like old mom. Yeah.
But it's what she wanted.
Yep.
So you know what? You can't feel bad about it, but that is humorous. I appreciate the Lao lesson, Miff. We're learning a lot here today. Now we've learned some Lao. What else did we learn in game 1? That In My Zen is a good fit on ADC, I suppose, for this FUNHAVERS team. That Joshi, when playing this Merlin, can 1v3 later on in the game. That Uzi on the RDO, Miff, synergizes well with this pick. We learned a lot.
It really just, it was the second rotation of buffs that really set up the FUNHAVERS to have an incredibly fun match. We saw Dame rotate over towards the duo lane, try to set up for a gank, think twice on it, and then in doing so lost out on the majority of his right side camps, putting him about a level down, which opened the door for Magic Feet to start rotating throughout the entirety of the map. It put Uzi a level up, and then once that happened, both of them went towards mid, put Joshi a level up, and it slowly bled from the right side of the map all the way over towards the left. And then from there, a slight lead very quickly became a major one off of one flubbed Gold Fury attempt.
Indeed. And this is the one. Yeah, this is the fight later in the game.
Yikes.
Oh my goodness. Only Teepers doesn't get hit by that. This is what I'm talking about with Joshi. I mean, look, I know everyone else is Horus ulting in. But Joshi on his own was just walking at 3 members of the neighborhood. And that was very impressive. In My Zen, 703, Magic Feet 406. Put together a good game on the Kamazots. And Oceans assists in 12 of the 14 kills that the FUNHAVERS had on their side. Couple of deaths, that's it. Both of them were for Dame, one of them on Uzi later on there in that game. So, you know, it's a total rebuild, I think, if you're in the neighborhood going into game 2. This one just completely spiraled on you. you know, it's always a hard question to answer, Miff. I mean, is this a pick ban issue in your mindset, or are there just decisions you think that didn't really work out for the neighborhood in this game? Maybe a combination of the both.
The only pick I would like to see changed up is probably Teeper's pick. That Persephone was just really struggling to connect those ultimates. Some days you're landing them all, some days you're not. And if you're not landing them, probably just go ahead and go towards a different pick. But otherwise, it was the early decision making. The draft top to bottom was not the issue for the neighborhood.
The grasp of deaths were a fa way from connecting. Picks and bans. I'm going to start right now. Miff, you need to go home and watch Sound of Music, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what year did it come out? Do you have the wiki page up? You're looking at the laptop.
Huh? No.
No, not
I
at all.
think it came out in like the 60s.
Oh, okay. That's a little before my time.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you saying it's like before your preference for entertainment? Like, are you saying anything that came out in the 60s is just too early for you?
Yeah, I would say
Like, it's before my time because I wasn't born in the 60s.
the oldest piece of media I ever consumed was probably Dragon Ball. And that's like, I want to say 1997.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? You never watched Star Wars?
No, I haven't seen Star Wars.
You're kidding.
I tried to read the books and I thought they were bad, and then I was like, I
Got
just
it.
won't watch the movie then.
That's egregious.
Is it?
That
I
yeah,
keep seeing this
no.
Jar Jar Binks guy, and he looks dumb.
Hold on. So you're before we get into picks and bans,
Because it's going.
because it is going, and I'm sorry. We'll give this its due credit. I just want to make sure I got this right.
Uh-huh.
You decided to give up on Star Wars because you read the books and
No, I
decided they
read
weren't-
the first part of a book, and I was like, this is bad.
and that was enough to have you drop Star Wars.
Yeah.
You didn't try any of the movies. You read the first part of a book and said that all of Star Wars sucks.
Okay, and here's another take that I've got. I hate when movies are in the wrong order. You're not supposed to watch Star Wars 1 first, right? Like, you start
are.
at, like, 4?
No, that's the order they came out in. But if you want to watch in chronological order, 1 is first all the way through.
So you're telling me I got to work through Jar Jar Binks to get to Darth Vader?
Yeah,
That's awful. That's all.
Yeah,
I know enough about Star Wars. I built, like, the Lego kits when I was a kid.
gotcha. Yes, you have to watch 1 first. You don't have to. I mean, you can watch it in the release order if you want, but whatever, Miff. Persephone,
Production
Bologna.
got mad at us.
Yeah, no. Well, for good reason. Persephone, Bologna picked here for the neighborhood. So they go back to the Persephone pick, Miff. Gilgamesh, Medusa, Fenrir. So it's another stack of 3 really, really strong picks here for the FUNHAVERS, and 3 picks that could really make an impact on this game. How about on the flip side, though? You got both carries picked up here for the neighborhood. Bologna on either side, flanked by Persephone and Chiron.
Yeah, Bologna banned out in game 1, so it's a pick that maybe Downey has been very adept at very recently and can certainly hold its own in lane, but I wouldn't argue is even that much stronger than something like an Amaterasu. Amaterasu a little bit more consistent in the engage. This will help out the neighborhood rather, with their ability to kind of go towards these objectives. And then looking at the Chiron as well, that's a much more aggressive pick than CERN, which should be able to match up better against this Medusa. Medusa very likely to fully commit to her damage, dash in with the Lacerate, Viper Shot finishes off the kill. Well, you've got Centaurus to death immune, and if she's already dashed on you, she's probably not avoiding those ultimate shots very easily.
Yep.
So I think the FUNHAVERS going to be a little bit more choosy with their aggression in the laning phase.
Yeah, my Zen not as open in game number 2 to some of those aggressive plays that we saw in game number 1. Still in the mid lane, though, we're gonna catch a couple of bans here if we're the FUNHAVERS. The Thoth taken away as well as the Tiamat. And so the mid lane pick is going to have to be something a little bit different down the stretch, but there's still a Merlin if you want to go back to that. Merlin looked great in game number 1, could be another option here. But it looks like mid lane is going to get saved to the final pick here for the FUNHAVERS. Fafnir is the lock-in for the neighborhood, Miff. And this is something we've seen where, like, Bologna feels like it synergizes very well with, like, Shogun's Kusari. You have Chiron, who loves the attack speed. Bologna loves the attack speed. Fafnir with the team-wide coerce. It seems that there's a good mindset here for the neighborhood.
Yeah, it really seemed to me to be an objective-focused play, especially if this Ao Kuang gets locked in. Dame has gone on record on saying that he really does like this pick, has potential to kind of dominate an early game. If you're able to pick up a kill in the first 5 or so minutes, sure, Ao Kuang very weak at that portion of the game, but just having to execute means that you can follow up on the aggression that you've already slotted into your lanes, and an Ao Kuang with the lead is an Ao Kuang that is probably going to win the game by that same right. That said, Ao Kuang does not have a great matchup into Gilgamesh in particular. Gilgamesh can use Dropkick once that Dragon Call comes through just to create space for himself. If Ao Kuang ever decides to escape away from a fight, it's pretty easy to track him down once he uses the Water Illusion. Has a little particle effect, you know where he's going, and Winds of Shamash being literally massive means that one tick's going to knock you out of the stealth, and it's pretty easy to find that tick.
Myth, let's have some fun, you think, in game number 2. Let's learn some more things. FUNHAVERS versus the Neighborhood in game number 2. Remember, game 1 heavily in favor of the FUNHAVERS. That's a 20-minute game that ended up with 20,000 gold or so in the lead for the FUNHAVERS by the end of it. Where do you think this match kind of hinges here? I mean, it's too much to put it on one person, I think, but you know, is there anyone for the Neighborhood or the FUNHAVERS in particular you think that has to show up, has to have a good game?
We need to see more from Teepers this time around for the Neighborhood. That Persephone really was not connecting the ultimates in game 1. And particularly, I think the Neighborhood needs to root the majority of their aggression around the duo lane. That you're playing around your Chiron. Guy J, one of the most veteran players on this team, has some of the best pedigree as well. So you need him to be able to perform up against In My Zen. Besides that, as long as the Neighborhood doesn't get washed out of the map early on, as long as they're able to confirm their own buffs at least, they can rely on the scaling of this Ao Kuang. They can rely on the scaling of this ability to just shut down objectives incredibly fast between the Bologna, the Ao Kuang, and the Chiron. So I would like to see the Neighborhood really just slow down the pace of this game, limit what the FUNHAVERS are trying to do, rather than trying to aggress at the same level that we saw in game 1.
Anytime, Myth, there's a Fenrir, got to look towards beads, CC immune ultimates, things like that. 3 sets of beads immediately for the Neighborhood, 1 for Delny. Teepers, Guy J also have a set of beads for themselves there as well. And so early on in this lane, both supports have Frenzy. It's usually this wave where some fun starts to happen. Pop that Frenzy, clear out that wave. In My Zen reaches level 2 first. Guy J and Vonson realize won't be competing for this wave just yet.
Yeah, it seems like the Neighborhood just realized that In My Zen coming in at level 2 is a massive threat on the map. They don't want to step forward at all, and despite having belt, aren't willing to take that engagement. And I think they're right to do so. They don't need to take an engagement right now in this lane. I am worried now that you've called it out. Dame does pick up Blink in that first slot. He's probably going to be the target of a lot of aggression from this Fenrir. You do have CC immunity with the ultimate, but it's conditional CC immunity. Very, very similar to how Surcat operates. Ao Kuang needs an enemy god nearby, or if there isn't, he's just getting picked up every time. There is the ability, if you're very quick on it, if you're able to read the bite timing from Oceans, that you can use the Ao Kuang ultimate to immune Ragnarok, but it's not easy, and Oceans is a player that has been playing for going on 8-9 years now. I think he's pretty privy to that kind of matchup knowledge.
That is a whole lot of Smite.
Isn't it?
That is a lot of Smite. Oceans shows where the value is in that much Smite in game 1. A little bit of that here in game 2. Guy J cleanses himself and needs every bit of it, as the gallop away from the Chiron is barely enough to keep himself alive. That would have been disheartening, to say the least, if the Neighborhood were able to grab first blood over in duo lane yet again, especially if it fell. Or not yet again, but if they were able to find first blood over in duo lane, especially if it ended up falling on In My Zen on this Medusa.
Yeah, Magic Feet going to go for a bit of a steal here. Does get the largest Harpy, but the small 2 go over towards Delny. But that is just so valuable for the FUNHAVERS, just because even had Magic Feet not gotten any of the camps, they're stripping away from this Ao Kuang. Slowing down Dame is the name of the game for the FUNHAVERS. Once we start to approach level 5, FUNHAVERS will likely hit that gas pedal, try and play that exact same aggressive style that we saw in game 1, but 2.5 minutes in, limiting the jungler on the other side, big plays.
It's a purple buff look now for the FUNHAVERS, but you're not going to rotate Magic Feet over to this side of the map. Frenzy actually gets used here. Definitely have to make sure you get this one now. It does get dropped down by the Neighborhood, but it looks like Guy J won't be able to go pick it up. So use your Frenzy, maybe realizing that you're not going to be fighting in this lane anytime soon, just to grab your own purple buff. Haven't seen much pressure yet from Magic Feet on the second rotation of buffs, or Dame for that matter. It's a different look over in the solo lane this game, Myth. Bologna for Delny, and then Uzi on the Cerberus. Another pick in the Cerberus for Uzi. I think it gets a bit of an Uzi buff. I think Uzi has shown us that this pick looks really good in his hands.
Yeah, very willing to rotate out early on, be that guy who's going to burn away the beads consistently for his team, and seeing that he's already gone for the teleport, that's going to fit his style very well. Downey, on the other hand, picking up beads, has survivability, which makes sense. He got like 4-man dove at the 5-minute mark 3 separate times in game 1. So having beads going to make that a little bit more difficult, but will limit his ability to have his presence known on the map as much as Uzi will on the other side. So now that he's got that Stygian Torment available, Uzi that is, I'm expecting him to probably try and clear out some of these waves, back for that first item, start proxying and make some rotations towards mid.
Magic Feet and Dame might meet one another in the jungle here. Dropkick not against the wall. A lot of the follow-up, literally everything missing onto Dame. As the Ao Kuang takes no damage. Mid Harpies split. Magic Feet will pick up the plant though to get the obelisk up and started. The jungle power curve I think will be interesting this game, Myth, between an Ao Kuang and a Gilgamesh, as some pressure put out onto the Ao Kuang. Teeper is able to get a little bit of damage as well. Kind of an awkward fight there for the FUNHAVERS. But in my Zen, that's something you were worried about, Myth, was GuyJ just being able to free cast that ultimate and hit in my Zen with all of them. That's a solo kill for first blood in the duo lane.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a look back at it, but it's almost exactly what I had predicted. I'm almost certain that we saw in my Zen dash in there aggressively, try and finish off a kill, and GuyJ says, oh, yo, word, I'm actually immune to death. That thing you're trying to apply to me simply does not work as long as I'm glowing blue, and is able to turn around that engagement very easily. And this is the key to victory that we had established for the neighborhood, is finding some dominance in that long lane. And early on, GuyJ's done so.
GuyJ has done so. Blue stun start on the Chiron. Always feels good. GuyJ gallops away. Might have to use beads here. Instead, we'll just get turned around at the end of that Ragnarok. And so Oceans was able to find pressure, but ended up being no kills there. Ring of Hecate started up for Dame here, Myth. I mean, is this a state in the game where Dame likely not worried about making these big gank plays happen and more so just farming and getting a couple of those items online?
No, when you're playing Ao Kuang, your communication to your team is, hey guys, just survive the early game. I might gank, I might make something happen, but that's not the name of the game for Dame at this point. It's, I'm going to get like 3-4 items deep, and then I'll win the game for us. That's how much damage Ao Kuang is able to do. And once he gets that second item available, that third item as well, he's able to solo out these objectives. Pyromancer is not safe from Ao Kuang, especially considering Ring of Hecate in that first slot, giving you a great deal of survivability, a great deal of lifesteal on these objectives.
Could be a meeting of the minds here in mid. Teeper's jumped on by Oceans. Will dash away just fine. Dame might have to fight. Might be out of his hands if that fight ended up breaking out, but it will not. At this point in Game 1, the gold lead had started to build up for the FUNHAVERS, right around 2,000 or so. Not the case here in Game 2. 400 or so gold and experience in the lead are the neighborhood. So negligible in both accounts, both regards. A lot of that maybe hanging with GuyJ, that first blood making a difference. But not all that far behind, as in my Zen able to complete the Crusher nonetheless. Joshi dodges out the hammer. Not for lack of trying, though. Feels like Ocean's been very active early in this game. Just hasn't really been able to connect for the big setup yet.
Yeah, and hasn't been able to burn beads as consistently as we saw in Game 1. So once Oceans does go in, the payoff he gets is removing a defensive relic. Doesn't have that consistent CC around him. Uzzy has not made those same level of rotations as we saw earlier on, and likely because he hasn't had the same level of help in his lane. Blue buff has been going over to Delny pretty consistently, so no lead there for the Cerberus. Oceans has been hovering the duo lane a little bit more so because he's trying to match up some of that pressure that GuyJ has already established for himself. It's now the FUNHAVERS kind of playing the neighborhoods game rather than establishing aggression and choosing the fights for themselves.
As he gets pushed back beneath his tier 1 tower just a little bit there. As Vani hanging out on the left side of the map. In my Zen does have beads here, does have Petrify as well. Could be difficult to lock down a kill onto this Medusa. Seems like, you know, FUNHAVERS, Myth, you know, outside of Oceans, though, maybe Magic Feet specifically, have also been okay to kind of kick back, farm up just a little bit. Not rolling the dice on many plays. Oceans gets a stun onto Dame. There's no beads on the Ao Kuang, and there's damage there from In My Zen on the back end of the Petrify. Transformation out from Vonson, but Vonson has to leap away immediately. And that was a concern that you had brought to the forefront, Myth. No beads on the Ao Kuang.
That should happen multiple times before Dame's able to pick up beads for himself. Still 3 levels out from getting that next relic, so Oceans should find aggression on him pretty consistently going forward, especially now that you've seen one go in, right? Like, you've got that one score. It's time to continually trying to press that guy. Dame's been allowed to free farm for 8.5 minutes just about. Yep. It's time to start slowing down this Ao Kuang, and, well, Oceans has got some tankiness. Gauntlet of Thebes slowly starting to stack up. Should be able to at least pick up a tier 2 defense item on that next back. Should give him the confidence he needs to close that gap.
That kill split 4 ways, and so the big impact likely not so much in how much of a lead it gives any individual members of the FUNHAVERS, but just taking Dame off the map for a second, that's given Magic Feet time to hang out, farm up, grab a 1-level lead over Dame, who since finishing Ring of Hecate has only gotten that tier 1 item in the back pocket, so the game has slowed down just a little bit for the Aokwang, whereas Magic Feet finished the Jotun's Wrath, has a Shogun's Kusari completed as well, and so a strong starting point now for Magic Feet, who's starting to hit a bit of a power spike here in this game. Where's Oceans and where's its ultimate? That's the big question. 3/4 of the way there. Dame on an awkward side of this fight, but the chase is on. Blink used
It's tough.
defensively. And that just shows you, I mean, how worried Dame really is of all this engage.
Yeah, Dame now gonna likely be a non-factor in the next couple of fights. Aokwang really needs that additional mobility. If he has to use his 1 to close gap, you've got no survivability outside the ultimate. You need to fully commit yourself to finishing off some of these kills, and the priority targets have still all got their beads available to them. Joshy's had no pressure on him so far this game. Zen, since being sold out by Guy J, hasn't seen any pressure come his way either, and then picking up that kill up against Dame has actually put himself back in the lead, now 1 level over Guy J in the dual lane, and well, Medusa with a lead is pretty dominant, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there. It's Aussie, I imagine Guy J will be able to go back and finish up that item here, so should be closer in itemization than where we are in lane. And Aussie is completed for Guy J. So Hunter's still relatively close, but Guy J starting to walk mid. And so maybe that gives you the idea, no, now headed back towards left, the neighborhood we're considering a pyro pull, but that's just given time for In-My-Zen to hang out in lane, farm up, grab that entire wave. Looks like Guy J is going to miss maybe not much. A little bit of gold maybe on that left side wave. But at any rate, In-My-Zen maximizing the output on the left side of the map. Uzzie's looked at though by Dame and Delny. Haven't seen much from the Aokwang just yet.
Good
Stygian
ults.
Torment timed well, and it is fantastic from Uzzie. A Ragnarok into Dame, and that's another kill. A double for Joshi as Delny also dies off. Oceans has got to get picked up here to give the neighborhood something back into this fight. Vonson, the one to find it, but a 2-for-1. You're only trading out your support. FUNHAVERS will take it.
And Magic Feet makes the rotation, finds the double slow. Teepers pushed up against the wall. They could chase out here.
Magic Feet has Winds of Shamash. Could be used to chase down the last bit of this kill as Teepers walks on out. Now Vonson is the target, and Joshi on a killing spree. All 3 of the kills happening on the right side of the map, and the FUNHAVERS start to widen up that goal just a bit.
Guy J makes a rotation all the way to the right-hand side, but too little too late. Does not get there in time to join his team for the fight, so instead we'll take out the mid wave, which is going to put Teepers slightly behind. Again, Teepers sacrificing 2 waves just to rotate over towards the fight on the right-hand side, and now missing out on the farm that he could have returned to, just so that Guy J can maintain a slightly even state. Misses an entire wave to the tower as well. And what does In-My-Zen do that entire time? He's chilling. Man's vibing in lane. He's just farming up, and he's still maintaining that about 1 level lead. This is what happened in the neighborhood last time. Once things started to go poorly for them, they got spread thin across the map. They weren't spending their time farming. That gold lead slowly started to grow out. Remember, just 2-3 minutes ago, we were talking about nearly 1,000 up for the neighborhood.
Yep.
This game is completely flipped on its head.
Yeah, completely turned around. It's 1.4K in the lead. Are the FUNHAVERS more proactive and experience really the worrying number there? Right about 4,000.
It's a lot.
1 to 2 levels in mid, jungle, and solo lane is the metric that we've set. And I think Ocean's, Miff, you called it perfectly. Has prioritized his targets perfectly. Where Dame gets gobbled up by the Ragnarok that first time, and it's like a light bulb moment for the FUNHAVERS, where we realize, yeah, from this point on, I can just do that over and over and over again. So it's only happened a couple of times, but now with beads, Dame is at least going to be a little bit more difficult of a target. There's 4 sets of beads for the neighborhood, Miff, and so if there's a silver lining, because it's been a set of trying to find those, the beads haven't been burnt all that consistently, and so the Ragnarok now with beads for Dame might be a little less effective.
But now you shift up your target, right? Vonson likely going to be the one taking Ragnarok in the majority of these fights. Sure, he's the support, but at 1-1, his value, his bounty is still incredibly high. And if you want to talk about damage output, if you're concerned about your ability to finish off this kill on the Fafnir, Joshy's got 5 levels on him.
Dame is Ragnaroked this time, but after he takes so much damage. Then there's damage anyway onto Dame. 0-3 now out of the jungle as Magic Feet has got a double in this game yet again. starting to just tumble for the FUNHAVERS. There's a Pyromancer up on one side of the map. There's a Gold Fury up on the other. And Magic Feet and Joshi in these last two games have just played so well off one another.
They really have, man. This Pyromancer should fall down pretty fast, and now Oceans doesn't even have to do what I was talking about earlier. You don't even have to change your play style because you burnt the beads off of the Yao Kuang instantly. Dame's probably getting some buyer's remorse right now. Like, okay, well, I got beads, and it didn't save my life, and now it's down for 2 more minutes, so I'm not allowed to play aggressively at all. Still only 2-level deficit in the jungle, despite being 0-3 for this Yao Kuang. Will have superior scaling into the late game if the neighborhood can start to stem some of this bleeding, but the FUNHAVERS in going for the easier of the 2 neutral objectives, the 2 viable ones at this portion of the game, Gold Fury and Pyromancer, have kind of removed the ability for the neighborhood to split the map. Generally, we'd see the FUNHAVERS go towards gold because it's higher value, and the neighborhood could at least kind of hedge their bets, play the fence, get the other objective. It's not as valuable, but you at least stem that bleeding a little bit. No longer the case. Now the FUNHAVERS can shift their entire attention over towards the left side of the map, and there is no way that the neighborhood will be going over towards the Fire Giant unless they've got a 4-man grouping, in which case, potentially, could try and split it that way, but 15 minutes in, the risk of that is incredibly low.
Yeah, very low. The FUNHAVERS eyeing this left side of the map. In my Zen, 1 level ahead, and fully completed Wind Demon. Looks like Guy J is going for something a little bit different. Aussie maybe into XE, maybe into Chin Size, but Wind Demon for sure for In My Zen. As Gold Fury on the menu. But the neighborhood showing up in force. They don't want to let this one go quietly. Teleport for only one of the solo laners, so that's something you have to consider here, Miff. If a fight breaks out on left, Uzzie's going to be able to be there in a way that Delny will not. And a fight looks like it's going to break out here. Gold Fury started up. Uzzie back in base, and it's going to buy and teleport in, and the FUNHAVERS take down the Gold Fury. The neighborhood are able to disengage, and so maybe Delny at least able to get some free farm, but FUNHAVERS grab the big objective.
Surprised to see Oceans allow Vonson to walk that close. Again, Ragnarok just works on this Fafnir unless he dedicates the Dragon Transformation, but you got to do that pretty quickly to avoid that CC. It comes out very fast for Oceans. There's the pickup. Should die.
Vonson back into
No
mid.
damage.
Grasp of Death. Flies down mid. Yeah, no damage there to connect onto Vonson. Not enough, at least. There was a little bit. Oceans tanks up the tier 1 tower. This is a big gold swing now in this game. Swing in the same direction that it has been going. As Day may be considering some damage onto Uzzie, who takes almost none with Stone of Binding, Breastplate of Valor, and Pestilence on his side. Strong is the Cerberus out of the solo lane. So the FUNHAVERS, Miff, they get a nice infusion there. That's a great play. You're able to grab gold and then the tier 1 tower.
Beads still available for everyone in the neighborhood, so Vonson does his job, and just living through the Ragnarok actually buys his team about 40 seconds where they can start to look for something on the map, but I think what the neighborhood needs to be looking for is farm right now. Experience still the major issue for some of these guys. 1 or 2 levels in the majority of roles, dual lane about 2 levels each, but you got to talk about relative strength. Vonson sitting at level 11 up against Joshi, who's already got double flat pen, finishes up the Soul Reaver. 7-level deficit between these two means that until Vonson gets that second relic, he's not going to find a whole lot of value in these fights. I don't care that you can transform into a dragon and engage very easily. I don't think we're going to see Vonson be the one initiating any of these engagements because he jumps in, he probably just dies the damage output of Joshi on his own or In My Zen on his own. And that's true for the entirety of the front line of the neighborhood. Even Delny at this point, I don't think, can generate enough threat to make In My Zen or Joshi respect him in these fights.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Looks like Vonson Miff is just going to... You got Relic Dagger, you got Sprint, and you got Frenzy. I'm going to transform, I'm going to coerce my team, I'm going to Sprint and Frenzy them and hope that that's enough. And that better be enough for the neighborhood. And
for his sake.
For his sake, right, because that's about all it looks like this Fafnir is going to be able to do for a little bit. As the Fury will spawn out here in a couple of minutes. 18 minutes in. Would be an early Fire Giant, but again, with the type of lead that the FUNHAVERS are playing with, if you rotate In My Zen over towards right, something you could consider. But it almost seems like a very similar script, Miff, to how game number 1 was, doesn't it? Where you have this type of lead, you find a scrap fight somewhere, you knock down a couple towers, and go get a tier 1 tower, or go get the Fire Giant at some point. Oceans steps around the obelisk, but unable to go pick up the flower. I think the positioning from the neighborhood here pretty telling. Just where the FUNHAVERS are hovering, the neighborhood kind of completely evacuate.
Yeah, Tier 1 tower is going to go down, but I don't think the neighborhood's in a position where they have to give up their structures this easily. Vonson isolated, can open to the dragon, and then into the mouth.
Into the mouth and into the grave. Joshi with the 4th kill of the game. And unfortunate positioning there for Vonson. 1 and 2 now. Support for the neighborhood. So you've lost Tier 1 and Tier 2.
No grouping.
Luckily, there's no Fury for the neighborhood. FUNHAVERS would easily have gone and grabbed that one. Pyromancer's about to respawn. 4-man grouping from the FUNHAVERS headed back towards the right.
And this is not what we'd expect to see from the neighborhood, man. These are highly competitive sets.
I agree.
Once we saw them in the SPL play-in, seems like the FUNHAVERS just got their number on the map right now. The neighborhood established early dominance, and that's all we saw from that early dominance was, what, 500, 600 gold in their favor. As since then, the FUNHAVERS pick 1 or 2 kills and then start rotating through, and seems like the neighborhood aren't willing to dig their heels in. They aren't willing to put up a defense. Pyromancer pulled out. We'll see. Can the neighborhood show up?
This is where you got to be careful, though, if you're the neighborhood. So if you die over a Pyro, you're giving up Fire Giant right on the other side. And so I think neighborhood, maybe a chance here for a bit of a pump fake. If all of the FUNHAVERS go back, you can catch out a member or two who's still around. Some teams sometimes will pull the Fire Giant in that moment, but the neighborhood will not. FUNHAVERS get Pyro, get 2 towers over on the left side of the map, and a whole heap of gold to then group up and maybe start to put some threat on this Fire Giant.
Yeah, still an entire minute from that Oni Fury respawning, so the neighborhood can't even split targets there. Not that that's one I think the neighborhood should be willing to go for. Sure, you're talking like 8,000 gold down at this portion of the game, but 20 minutes in, that's still a much better place than we saw in Game 1. Dame's already starting to get some damage under his belt. Has gone for a complete auto-attack style of play. Telkine's Ring in the 3rd slot. Spear of the Magus. He does a lot of damage. Once he connects with somebody, he can shred just about anyone on the FUNHAVERS, but he's not able to do it quickly. He's going to have to land 4, 5, 6 auto-attacks to find that threat.
Guy J doesn't have beads, but does wait out the Ragnarok well. Otherwise, it might have been a dead Chiron. Guy J has gone Crusher into Aussie, Chin Size, and Eximyth. And so Tank Shed on the mind. Neighborhood are around fire, but I don't think started it up quick enough. FUNHAVERS surely are going to immediately rotate over to the right side of the map, as Guy J had to use that ultimate. And so now you're going to be fighting in this fight without one of your most important ultimates. And so the FUNHAVERS could force a fight.
They could. I think the neighborhood may have had an opportunity to go fire there. They were grouped up
slow
on the Fire Giant before FUNHAVERS had even pulled the Oni Fury on the other side, but it was just hesitation. You got to be willing to make these high-risk plays when you're talking about a deficit like this at the 21-minute mark. Those are the only types of plays that'll put you back in the game, barring maybe a Fire Giant steal, because the FUNHAVERS, they are playing with confidence. They'll take a fight.
They want this fight. Vonson cleansed. Need a whole lot more than that. Delny putting pressure onto InMyZen, who's going to sustain it right back up. Big damage numbers, massive petrify yet again. InMyZen will not be denied on this Medusa. Joshi is on a rampage. The Merlin has just looked too good. A killing spree for Magic Feet as well, and surely this is the FG.
Delny did a good job in that fight, kind of isolating InMyZen, made him fight him in that 1v1 for the entirety of the engagement, except for one ultimate. He walks up with a Petrify, clips 3, and says, well, I've done enough for this team fight. I've connected with the back line. I'll go ahead
Zen has looked good
and
on this
look
pick,
at you.
hasn't
Yeah, Zen's doing great, man. This Medusa has nearly gone uncontested this game. We haven't seen any ganks. I don't think
It was the one
legitimately,
solo kill?
There was one solo kill, but InMyZen has not taken damage from Dame or Teepers a single time this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think outside of that solo kill, InMyZen and a little pressure from Delny there, InMyZen is just free operation. And when Joshi's flickering like forward in these fights, that's usually a bad indication. Like when you're using disengage to go
confident.
in, usually a sign that the game is not quite going your way. 10,000 gold down, 22 minutes in. Fire Giant on all 5 members of the FUNHAVERS. Couple ultimates still ready to go. A lot of actives still ready to go as well. FUNHAVERS could find a pick, could find a fight, could end this game.
Yeah, Dame no beads, so he's got to be real careful here. Delny, well, no HP, so he's similarly got to be careful.
How much are we willing to fight? How much are we willing to give up under this right side Phoenix? A lot, apparently. Health bars are low. Stygian Torment is huge, and it's a big burn onto the neighborhood. Vonson and Guy J both dead. Dame over on speed buff, hoping for a roundabout gank.
No, he wants to go
Instead,
faster.
it's just going to be a speed buff picked up As the Titan looked at by the FUNHAVERS, game 1 took 20 minutes. It looks like game number 2 will take just a few minutes more, and the FUNHAVERS grab a 2-0.
That's that double-edged sword of Alquan coming into play, man. If you don't get the ball rolling early, if you can't at least maintain an even state, you fall behind on this pick, you get isolated by Fenrir a couple of times, you're legitimately not allowed to play the game. Dame was a non-factor in game 2.
Was anyone on the FUNHAVERS a factor?
Oh, the FUNHAVER, yeah, all of them.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah, all of them.
I don't know, man. And I say that jokingly and not in intentionally being harsh. The FUNHAVERS just had an answer for everything that the neighborhood were trying to throw at them here in this set. I'm not even sure the neighborhood had the opportunity to throw anything. I think the FUNHAVERS were controlling a lot of game 1, all of it, and then most of game 2 outside of a solo kill that GuyJ was able to find. FUNHAVERS, they grab the third rendition of FUNHAVERS versus the neighborhood, and they do it in 2-0 fashion. We'll take a break. When we come back, Miff and I will break it down.
I heard you say you found the story all tucked away in the back of the room. Been lost for years, far away from the glory, in the midst of our day-to-day routine, in the corner of our minds. We're not in blue, we're not in mourning, to raise the truth. It takes more than will. Among the things I like to do, craving is one for two, and the light of the day that passes on will somehow be gone. Among the things I like to do, craving is one for two, and the light of the day that passes on will somehow be gone.
Oh my mate. Hey, you made a permanent home in my head. You moving like a goddess, come my way, my way, my way. Your hips on the move, only a real one can do what you do. I caught a body, but you was the shooter. Damn. Shot me down one time, now you wanna hug me down long time. Funny how the love can change sometimes. So we say, hey, Paco for Paco, I'm pulling up on you. Let me show you my world. She told me that I make her feel alive. I can see the goodness in your eyes. We can take a trip, just you and I. You got me. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my.
Adicto a ti, mi flaca. Tu cuerpo sacude como maraca. Te miro y miro, so sube y baja. Como en Caracas bailamos al ritmo del bajo y la caja y tú.
And yet again, a set that we thought could go 3 does not go 3. This is a 2-0. This time it's the FUNHAVERS who come out on top, and it is a quick 2-0 win. Game 1 about 20 minutes. Game 2 just a little bit longer. Not much longer. 23, 24 minutes in the FUNHAVERS. 23 minutes in game number 2. You know, Miff, I think it's a similar story, but some early pressure just like shifted the game back by like 3 or 4 minutes, right? Like once the feet got back underneath the FUNHAVERS.
Underneath the magic.
Yep, underneath magic. You gotta. I'm done for the day after this. You're trying to just like get it all in on the last test segment.
Gotta enjoy my my Dave time while I get it.
Do you see Avrin's tweet?
No, what did she say?
Avrin tweeted a poll and said, "Are Dave and Miff capable of doing a normal death segment?" And the 2 options were no and also no.
So like, which one won?
No.
Oh man.
And look at us. We're already not doing a normal death segment. And they're right. We can't. We can't do it. You and I just don't have it in us. You know, Miff, this was a set where the FUNHAVERS had a lot of individual players make a lot of individual plays. I think, in my mind, Josh, you really stepped up against the Merlin in back-to-back games. The flat pen build looked great. And again, I said it during the cast, if you're flickering in, usually a good indication of how your game is going.
Yeah, Joshy was
Again.
nearly uncontested, right? Like, there's the flicker in. He's like, I'm not going to be needing this for at least 14 seconds. And somehow dude was just right. No aggression comes his way. And I think that this time around was the freedom.
He did it again?
Dude, he's going to do it in every clip. This time was the freedom of not having a jungler looking at him, though. How often did Dame hit Joshy this game? I don't think it was super often. This Alquang was really limited by Oceans. He was getting targeted, to be sure.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't getting aggressive because that was the machination of the FUNHAVERS. That's what they wanted from this game, but you chose the god. You chose this pick,
Right.
and that's exactly how it goes down.
Chose to not have beats, just fresh out of the start. That's something
tough.
Oceans was able to take advantage of. Magic Feet on the flip side. It was interesting. I wondered if the more farm kind of casual play style of Magic Feet early was going to be an issue, where you're just letting Dame farm up. Was that going to be a problem that Magic Feet is also just kind of hanging out and farming up? It ended up not being a problem at all because Magic Feet and the Gilgamesh were able to rotate into those team fights and just have more of an impact. Another game where only 2 kills found by the neighborhood. One, a solo kill from GuyJ on In My Zen.
Pretty sick.
And then Oceans dies in a team fight later on here in this game. And so the FUNHAVERS Myth, I think not only, a team who's centered around making cool plays, things like that, but now, not even now, prior to this, but definitely now, serious contender for one of the North American SEC spots.
Yeah, these guys, the performance has been crazy, and it's wild to think that, sure, a lot of them have been around for a very long time. In My Zen's got some SCL pedigree behind them. Oceans has kind of dabbled in the SPL. Back in the days, he was playing ADC for LG, I believe. But this is a squad of relatively new players all together, and definitely a squad that has not played together for all that long at all. And even then, In My Zen is a completely new addition to this team. Just last month, we're talking about a different ADC that looked good with this squad. It's just a team that has really come together very fast, which makes me very excited to think how much better they can get with a couple more months of practice. Because the people that they're competing against have been friends for years, have been teaming for years, have doing all this stuff for as long as you could.
Yep.
This is a brand new team, and they're already dominating.
You saying a month ago, really stressed me out. Technically it was last month, but it was only a couple of weeks ago. And that really freaked me out. I thought I just lost all connection, time and space there for a second. Let's recenter ourselves with some time and space by looking at a nicely formatted schedule. That is how, Miff, you really root yourself back in a good spot. Lean Into It versus HOTM is our next matchup, and then My Fault B versus Sops Time will be our last 2 best-of-3s here in the North American SEC Week 1 qualifiers. And a whole list of 2-0s, Miff. And I think I'm officially done predicting that any of these matches are going to go 3, because at this point I'm just going to be wrong. We've got a couple more teams to send on to the next qualifier round and a couple more teams to send on in to losers round number 1. So the next time we see a few of these teams, we're qualifying them, whether it's Vamps, Great Gentlemen, things like that. That second round of the winner's bracket, the winner of each of those 4 matchups qualifies in, and then 2 teams will qualify by the end of the loser's bracket as well. Big takeaway here, Miff. I don't think the neighborhood played up to their standard. I think the neighborhood have a higher quality team than what we saw in this set.
Some days you just have a bad day. That's the legitimate truth of it. That's the truth of competition everywhere. I don't care if you're playing soccer or playing ping pong or playing Smite. Some days you just aren't in the mood for it. Some days things aren't working out. A couple of missteps really get your mental shaken. I think that the Neighborhood have got a pretty good chance of making a run through losers bracket. I don't think we've seen the last of this squad.
No, I don't think we've seen the last of the Neighborhood either. We will see the first of Lean Into It and HOTM, our third best of 3 of the day, coming up next.